moved to New Hampshire about 25 years ago from New York State. Raised my family here. I have 2 kids who are native porcupines, I guess is how we decide to say it now. I'm the current research director for the New Hampshire LBRY Alliance. We'll actually be on a panel discussion this afternoon at 2:30 in this room if you want to hear about that. So like I said, I'm introduced right now Jeremy Kauffman. He's the CEO and founder of LBRY, a content sharing and publishing platform that is decentralized and owned by its users. He's also the co-founder of TopScore, an international software platform used by nearly 1 million athletes. He's a Free State Project early mover, and he made his home in New Hampshire starting in 2015. Let's welcome Jeremy Kauffman.
Thank you. Everyone hear me? Everyone hear me all right? All right, great. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about LBRY. We think LBRY can be the future of digital content and change the way that the internet itself works, at least for static content that's the same for me and you, things like movies, pictures, and things like that. So part of our motivation for creating this company, I'm a child of the internet. I was raised on the internet. I had a computer when I was 7 years old, and the internet has not gone in a direction that I like. It's gotten more and more control. Platforms have more and more control. Everything is happening through a smaller and smaller amount of websites that exert a very large amount of influence on the internet and the way that it works. I don't like that. I think these companies tend to treat you like jerks, really. These middlemen have a large amount of control, and they don't even build services that work great for you, right? Like they get away with doing things like Facebook Messenger, right? They just turn it off on your phone because you're so locked in that they'll just like break their service and they don't need to care. That's how likely you guys are. So if we look at YouTube specifically, YouTubers lose 30, 40, 50% of their money to a middleman who moves videos around. The rules can change on them at any time. Your videos can get demonetized, their algorithms can change. You build your entire business up on top of a company, they can change the rules on you at any time. And this has been happening repeatedly, where YouTubers are getting demonetized, the rules are changing on them, and they're very frustrated. This doesn't apply just to YouTube, but YouTube is definitely the area where we've been getting a lot of traction. So how does blockchain work to fix this? All right, so if we look at centralized versus decentralized technology, centralized technology, at least as it's practiced currently, ends up being hostile to users. It ends up rent-seeking. It ends up rent-seeking. It becomes a point of censorship and interference, and we lose trust. So one of the things that we promise with LBRY, when I talk about LBRY, is I say this is an open source technology, and when you publish via LBRY, you're going to get 100% of the price that you publish for. Now, if I was a centralized platform that made you that promise, you still couldn't trust it, because I can change the rules on you, and that's what a lot of these companies do, right? Like, all of these services, Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, they were all better 5 years ago, right? It's as they get more and more market share, then they start acting like jerks. And so part of the motivation here is if we create an open source company and we create a protocol, it means that we can't be jerks to you later. And that's important to me, right? LBRY is backed by a VC, you know, I know how they want to make their money. We are a for-profit company, and I expect us to make money, but it's important to me that to have that aspect of open source. It means that people can pick up and take what we've done in a different direction. So let's look at LBRY specifically, and how LBRY helps us take back control. So I don't have LBRY installed on this computer, so I can't do a real demo. This probably isn't going to work very well. It's a really boring demo anyway, right? If you download the LBRY app, because the innovation isn't in the interface. If you open the LBRY app, it looks a lot like websites you've used before. It looks kind of like YouTube. Now, to be clear, LBRY isn't just for videos. We've been emphasizing that. It does do other things. You can sell books and other things on there. But we're not trying to innovate at the UI level. We're trying to innovate at the level of how this stuff works in the first place. And that's what's really cool about the way that LBRY works. So here's a bit about what's specifically happening and how LBRY works. Okay, so at the most bottom level of what we're doing, we have a blockchain. Okay, and the LBRY blockchain is a public proof of work blockchain, but it's been specifically modified and designed for the use case of maintaining a catalog of digital content. Okay. So a lot of people think of a cryptocurrency or blockchain as a new kind of money. We think of it a little bit differently. I think that's slightly wrong. It's important that these tokens be able to be traded and that they have a price. That's part of what makes the system work. But fundamentally, from a technology perspective, a blockchain is a database. That's what's new about blockchain. It's a new way to store data, and we never could store data before without having one guy or one server or one entity in charge of that. And who says, yeah, that's the right data, no, that's the wrong data. Now, we can reach consensus on a set of data, and we don't need to have any one party in charge of it. And that's the key insight of blockchain as far as I'm concerned. And that's a really powerful idea for creating a database of digital content, right? We can now have a global register, a global library, a global listing of digital content that's available, and not have anyone in control over it, and not have anyone need permission to put something in it. So anyone in the world can put something in the library blockchain and say, hey, here's a piece of content. Anyone else in the world can search and discover that, and no one fully controls it. We don't control it. I can't remove something from the library blockchain. Now, just to be clear, the data itself is not going in the blockchain, right? If we put movies in the blockchain, we'd run out of space pretty quickly. But what we put in that blockchain is a pointer to a data network. If you've heard of BitTorrent or other peer-to-peer technologies, it's kind of like that, right? So we store the metadata in the blockchain and we store a pointer to the next level up, which is the library data network, okay? This is a peer-to-peer network where people are contributing their disk space and their bandwidth, and they are incentivized with cryptocurrency to do that, okay? So these are the first two roles in the library ecosystem. We have miners and we have hosts. And these aren't exclusive. You could be a miner and a host if you wanted to be, but these are distinct roles. And then finally, at the uppermost level, we have the actual useful stuff, the applications. So the one that I kind of failed to show you is an example of an application. Another example of an application, I'll show, I can alt tab here. The website Speech, this one I can show. Now this is just a community project. This is not a core focus of our company, but it's an example of a website that uses the library protocol as a backend, right? So this is a really simple website. This is like Imager or Streamable or these other websites that let you dump an image or a video. We've all seen that before. What's different about doing it this way, doing it this library way? Well, when I upload something to Imager, when I upload it to Streamable, I'm giving it to them. If Imager wants to delete it later, that's fine. If they want to put an ad on it later, that's fine. It's theirs now. If they don't want to host it anymore, that's up to them. When I hand it to them, it's not discoverable by other people. It's not searchable by other people. I mean, it is, but only on that place. When you upload an image or a video to Speech, that entry gets written to the library blockchain. Anyone can fork this code base, could make a copy of Speech, could download all the content on the network, and there's another copy of it. There's no ability for Speech to ever, there is an ability for Speech to say, hey, it costs $5 now, but there's no ability for us to force you to continue to use Speech. And the data isn't locked inside of Speech. Speech accesses data from a larger network, all right? I suspect that at least something I've said is not making sense to someone. Is there anyone? Is it all making sense, perfect sense?
If you drag this up to Speech, but then you want to point somebody else to it, how do you do that?
If you put something up to it, how do you point to it? Yeah, so library has a whole URL scheme. That's actually the fundamental thing that it does, right? So we create URLs that map to a piece of digital content. So I could go to, if I go to the library channel, this is content that's been, library has its own channel on the library network, and this is some of the content that's been published to it. But anyone in the world can download and rehost this. It's not locked into the Speech server. It's in this decentralized web. That's right. This is our policy. You can't demonetize videos if you don't have a central authority that can't make that decision. There's a couple of other roles important to talk about. Publishers, right? The network doesn't work if people don't put content on there. Okay, so if you're a publisher, anyone can upload that. You pick whatever price for your content. You can publish it for free. You can publish it for a price. You have full control over that. And then, of course, we have users, the people who actually download content, access it, and watch stuff. So that is a succinct, at least as succinct as I can make it, introduction to library technology, the technology stack, and how it works. Well, we didn't actually get to look at this in full detail. I will talk about it briefly. So what happens, this is the only technical slide, what happens when you actually access a piece of content on LBRY? So you go and make this broadcast request saying, I want to know what's on the other side of this URL. And LBRY has its own URL. So for example, actually I believe all of the content from this weekend is going to end up on the LBRY network. So you could pull up LBRY : / maybe we'll put it at Liberty Forum. So LBRY : / Liberty Forum. You would load that up. It would broadcast that out to the world. Someone would respond and say, hey, here's what's at that address. You can prove that is you can prove that response is correct because it gets complicated, but basically it's the information is stored in a Merkle tree, and you can verify that your response is actually correct, that you received. You look at that metadata, you say, oh, this is the videos from Liberty Forum, yep, that's what I actually want. When you affirm that you want it, two simultaneous things happen. If there's a payment necessary, that payment gets made, and then it takes that hash and goes out to the peer-to-peer network and downloads and fetches the data, gets combined, and then you're watching it, right? So this is all pretty seamless from the user perspective. Maybe not always as fast as we would like, but you don't have to understand all this to use the thing. In fact, that's a key goal for us. We really want to make blockchain technology more accessible. We don't think you should need to know anything about blockchain to use our software. You should be able to just open it up and enjoy yourself. Hey, this is a video that I like. I don't need to know that there's some blockchain magic behind it to start having a good experience. So I'll talk a little bit about how far we've come as a company. So in the last year, we've had over 200,000 people use LBRY, both through the app and through speech. You can get a ton of great content. I only mentioned both Hollywood and YouTubers on here, so you can get films with David Cross, Julia Stiles. There's a film with James Franco. There's a dozen or so movies on there. There's also thousands and thousands of YouTubers. I think we're at over 5,000 YouTubers. A lot of them are very accomplished YouTubers. You get John Cleese recently synced his videos to LBRY, which is really cool. But Casually Explained, Eli the Computer Guy, Grade A Under A, Minute Physics. A lot of YouTubers with millions and millions of subscribers are very interested in this platform. We've gotten a lot of press coverage. We've been in all this whole list of places. Some of that was for the bottom item. So some of you guys may have seen this story, 20,000, UC Berkeley was going to delete 20,000 lectures from the internet because there was an ADA challenge that they had to subtitle their videos. So some non-students at UC Berkeley challenged Berkeley, said you have to provide these subtitles, you have to subtitle these videos. Berkeley was like, we're taking them offline. So we downloaded them, we mirrored them, and they're now available via the LBRY network. By the way, that's completely legal. That's not like we weren't doing it. It's Creative Commons, so it's legal for us to do that. We also have an office right here in Manchester. I don't think my company would be where it is without the Free State Project. It's been really cool to get the support of the community. I was demoing a much crappier version of this 18 months ago, and the community was very enthusiastic. Everyone wanted to test things out and try it out, and I don't think we would have been able to make the progress that we've made without that support from other people in the Free State Project. So thank you for that. That's also part of why we're sponsoring, because I'm very appreciative of that. If you want to try out and use LBRY, this is not a blockchain project where you have to just be on our mailing list or read a PDF. You can download our software, you can run it. You'll get a little bit of LBRY credits for doing so. All of our code is open source and MIT licensed. It's all public on the web, so you can check it out. You can hack on it, you can modify it, you can do cool things with it, or you can contribute. I think we're at well over 100 people have made a code contribution to the LBRY code bases. It's a really cool part of being an open source project. We have a chat room. There's probably 1,000 people in there right now if you go in it. It's at chat.libry.io. It's just a Discord chat room, but you can meet other people who are interested in decentralized technology, content freedom, and so on. And then, we're on social media. You can follow us on there. We're pretty active on there. And you can also email me. I'm always interested in meeting people who are, well, I'm just always interested in meeting people, but if you're doing stuff with blockchain or you want to talk to me about LBRY, I'm very accessible. You can also come up and speak to me after or later. We have one other guy here. Jack, you want to raise your hand or stand up? Jack's one of the lead developers on the LBRY project. He knows way more about it than I do, so he's a good person to talk to as well. Do we have any, I'm guessing I came in under time, but normally people have questions, so I'll just let that.
Actually, if you have questions, it'd be great to come up to the mic here so that you know look at the video. Line up.
So this will probably run into the copyright stuff, but so you can't delete stuff from this blockchain, right? Which means if someone uploads something that's illegal, either copyright, child porn, a number of other things, what happens? Have you guys gotten in trouble with that before, and how is that dealt with?
Yeah, so this is something, this could be a long answer. So we have information on our website about this if this answer is insufficient in any way. But we have been working with lawyers from the very beginning of this project. The answer is, first of all, just to be clear, there's just metadata in the blockchain. There's no, whatever you put in that blockchain, the content itself is never in the blockchain. Just the description of the content is in the blockchain. In terms of who would be breaking the law in that case, the people who are breaking the law are the people who uploaded it in the first place. It would be illegal to host that content, right? But in the case of us as a company, we are neither running the software that's maintaining the blockchain, right? Like we're not confirming those blocks or writing that data, nor are we hosting the data, right? So our understanding is that the people who would be in trouble in that case are the people who are using the technology, right? And this is not different from other technologies, right? BitTorrent is a legal technology, HTTP is a legal technology, guns and knives are legal technology, and the people who make technology are not responsible necessarily for the bad uses of that technology. And in terms of how we'll be following the law there, like we're a registered DMCA agent in DC. If we get a notification that content is illegal, we actually maintain a list of things that we've been notified about. It's a very short list. There's like 6 things on it right now. There actually has been very little infringing content on the network currently. But we maintain that list, and in the software that we publish, like the application that you download from us, it will obey that blacklist. Because we believe we have to do that to comply with the law.
So you've got the hosting and the space, provided by other people. In one of these cases, by putting it on the blacklist, does that mean that me providing my space, I don't have to worry?
Yeah. So the same protections that apply, that generally protect internet service providers. I forget the specific. I think the specific legal term is just service providers. It may be something else, but basically. You're not responsible if you're accepting things, generally speaking, like in the same way that like YouTube, I can upload something illegal to YouTube. You're protected from people doing something illegal via that kind of thing, as long as you respond when you're told. So the same thing applies to data hosting. Now in the case of data hosting specifically on LBRY, it's actually fairly anonymous. So in the way that the data network works specifically, data published to the LBRY network is just in chunks of approximately a couple megabytes. And those are all encrypted chunks. So as a node, you're just seeing, hey, chunk ABXD5 seems to be popular. You don't know what's inside of it, nor could you perform a lookup call to see, hey, what's in here. You can't access it. So that's another legal question, right? What happens if I'm posting 1/1000th of a piece of infringing content? So yeah, our lawyers love us because they're just like taking a bunch of money from us to tell us if they don't know the answers. Because a lot of this stuff, it's like they're like, hey, it's actually like my top complaint. There's no way. It turns out if there's something you're like, hey, we have no interest in breaking law, right? So the United States government said, hey, you're not allowed to do this. I'd pack it up. I go home tomorrow. I have zero interest, right? Like I'm not trying to be a crazy rebel person and have to move, I don't know, to wherever they move. That's how not weird I am. But you can't do it. There's no way. Like basically the answer is spend millions of dollars and you'll find out one day, right? Like there's no proactive way that you can get any kind of definitive answer, which is really unfortunate in my opinion, but it's the way it works.
Can you give a really high-level view of the changes you made to the blockchain to work as a content versus a value system?
Yeah, so specifically, the property that was very important to us is we want someone to be able to look up a piece of data on the network. That person should not have to have a full copy of the blockchain, right? Because that blockchain is going to get to gigabytes in size. We don't want every end user, every cell phone app, and so on to have to have a full copy of the blockchain. So basically this means an SPV wallet, if you're familiar with that. So a wallet that works without a full copy of the blockchain, it can still perform transactions and perform requests and know that those will perform correctly if you have the most recent copy of the blockchain headers. So the same thing applies to us, but also for resolution. So we use a separate, basically all the transactions in the Bitcoin blockchain are stored in a Merkle tree. As long as you have the hash of the roots, you can verify that that's correct. Same thing here. There's a parallel Merkle tree in the LBRY blockchain that's specifically for storing the metadata. So as long as you have the most current block headers, I can perform a resolution request, I can get a response, and I can know that that person wasn't lying about that response in the same way that I can do it with an SPV wallet on another blockchain. And that's most of our blockchain modifications. The other blockchain modifications are generally just sensible things, like we can do more than 2 megabytes or more than 1 megabyte every 10 minutes. But other than that, it's specifically to accommodate that feature. We have some blog posts on our website about this. How could you Google those? I think if you Google "why not Bitcoin" LBRY, you'll find the blog post. Jack, what am I doing wrong?
What happens if somebody outbids my name?
We're not getting into that right now.
So, can you get into a little more detail on the videos for fees? If I put something up and I want money out of it, what stops someone from grabbing that, re-uploading it with a different name and becoming more popular and stealing my money?
Yeah, well, so what stops someone from doing that on literally any platform? There is no known way of distributing digital content and not allowing people to copy it. That is an unsolved problem. You can debate whether it's a problem or not, but it is an unsolved problem. And there's no known way to do this. And in my opinion, it's almost certainly technologically impossible, right? Even if we had the technologies that work, like there are now technologies where you can decrypt in the CPU and not even get access to the key, which is a fairly new thing. Not even all chips support it. And even with this, I can get the video coming out of my video card and going to the monitor. There's no way. There's no way that you're going to be able to distribute a digital file and not allow someone to copy it. It's just not possible. So I prefer to take the approach that let's just acknowledge this reality and let's design a system acknowledging the fact that you can't stream to the video to someone and not allow them to copy it. It's not possible. So LBRY doesn't try to solve that problem. It just says, hey, this is the world we live in. So that's the answer. Any other questions? I can talk more about how either the technology works or how the company works, where we are as a company, that kind of thing.
Sure.
I'll talk about where we are as a company. So LBRY blockchain went live in July of 2016. We did it without any kind of ICO. We did it basically as a couple of people hacking on creating the project. We launched it without that much fanfare. We were actually kind of surprised by how enthusiastic the reaction was. We weren't, this was sort of the real boom around ICOs. But there was a ton of enthusiasm, like fairly immediately. I think when we launched the blockchain, we emailed like the 600 people who had participated in our alpha test. Like the reaction was really crazy and very positive. And it just kind of like shot out of the gate where we had a couple of thousand people in our chat room and started to get involved. The technology at that point was like pretty raw. It basically didn't work. So we kept it in a closed alpha and then a closed beta for basically a full year, where we had a team of about 6 people working on the project. And so we basically were in that state of we would recruit testers, we would keep beta testing it. We stayed there for about a full year. In August of this year was when we finally said, hey, anyone can come on and download it. It's definitely still a beta. We're not there product-wise, but we were able to continue to raise money, and the company is continuing to grow in size. August through the end of this year, we basically doubled our team size we now have 15 people working for the company. We now have an office here in Manchester. We're growing into several other platforms. We're going to have a mobile app come out. We're going to be launching a website called LBRY.tech, which will be specifically about how to use the protocol, how to interact with the network, how to contribute to our code bases, and a much stronger technical introduction for technical users. Because we actually didn't do a lot of that up front, right? Like, I'm of the opinion, it's like, I can either spend my time describing something or I can build it, and I tend to pick the latter one. So we were really focused on getting the technology working, getting it in front of end users so we could figure out if it actually worked. Now we're going to describe more of what we've actually built rather than trying to describe it before you built it because you get it wrong. Because then you go to build it and you realize you didn't know what you needed to build in the first place. And having that has really helped. Having all of those users, having all of these people try out the product has helped us find the holes and continue to make it better. I will actually mention, since I'm up here and I know there are a lot of smart people in this room, we are hiring, both either for people here in Manchester or remote positions. We're especially looking for engineers, but we'll certainly consider business side and other positions. You can learn more about that at our website, LBRY.io/join-us is the URL for that if you're interested. Question in the back? No, you just like raising your hand?
No, just 4 minutes.
Like chilling with my hands around. Okay. 4 minutes. All right, that's like, we got one more question. Patrick.
Does everyone mind?
Does everyone mind? No. If you download the consumer app, you're not a minor. You are a host. So if you download the consumer app, by default, you are going to host the content that you download to other people the same way you would on BitTorrent. But by default, you're not a minor.
Users get compensated for bandwidth and disk space?
Yes, but not at any fixed or known rate. So the way that LBRY, and this is a good question, because this is a difference from the way that LBRY works in some of these other systems. There are people out there that are trying to do so-called proof of storage or proof of bandwidth or contracts where you're saying I'm going to get this level of hosting or this level of provision. We don't do any of that. Zero, right? Our attitude is that we can use sort of free market principles for hosting data. Like basically that when you go out and request data, your machine is going to try to get it as cheaply as possible. And other people can choose the way that they price their hosting and their bandwidth. Now the vast majority of nodes are running for free, so content is almost always free currently because there's enough free nodes out there. But rather than LBRY is more designed for content that other people are going to access. It's not designed to be like a private backup service or something that you use just to back up a file. It's designed for content that you want other people to access, right? And so we're relying on the fact that disk space and bandwidth is really, really cheap, so that there's enough incentive for someone out there to continue to keep it around. We're also helping out with this a little bit right now in the early days of the network. Like we run a machine that sucks everything down just for extra safety. Yes, there's no firm promises that, hey, LBRY does not promise. If you publish something super unpopular that no one wants or that no one is willing to host, it won't be available, right? There's not a guarantee that someone else is going to host that for you. And that's another part of the answer to the question about some of the bad stuff, right? If it's illegal to host it, no one's going to be willing to host it. And you can have the blockchain issue, but you won't be able to actually resolve it and look it up. All right. I think we're gonna wrap it up here. If you have more questions, feel free to come up and speak to me or Jack throughout the weekend. We're happy to talk to you about LBRY and what we're doing. All right. Thank you.